You can get some goodwill by showing off external projects, things you did, things other people in the industry have done. You can get some goodwill to do that. Those make a great example. But at the end of the day, you're not going to bring people along if you don't make this work in your org, if you don't have successes in your org. Now be careful. There is this temptation to go pick out the biggest, hardest problem and go after that one immediately. I don't always think that's true. Sometimes I think there's a snowball effect. Start with something small. Start with something that works. Start with something that's a good demonstration that gets people used to it, that's low risk, that doesn't feel like the end of the world, that lets people fail forward. That said, you do have to start delivering value at some point, and you want to think like an executive. You got to know what powers the business. You have to understand that business model, and you have to be able to say, here is the juice that is worth that squeeze. Here's how we justify our budget. Here's how we justify the time that we spend and the money that we spent to do this. You have to be able to be prepared to show executives how you are creating value for the business. When I look back over the course of my career, one of the things that really helped me accelerate was the fact that I was given early autonomy, early ability to make responsible decisions. Now, I sort of lucked into that by ending up in a startup, a small startup, where I could, I had a lot of latitude and freedom. Not everybody has that. But when you're searching for examples, one of the reasons to not pick the biggest, hairiest thing that everybody else is going after is there you need lots of approval, right? You need other people to buy into what you're doing. Sometimes you want to start with the things you have control over. If you are outside of an organization and you're in training and you want to get your first behavioral science job, I get a lot of questions about, well, how do I build a portfolio? Go find the place you have control. If your brother owns a kebab shop, see if you can get him to let you mess with the menu or change the seats or whatever interventions you can do to drive his bottom line, his business. Start with the things that you have control over, no matter how small, because the biggest thing that will stop you is somebody saying no. Somebody saying, well, we haven't done it that way before and now I need to approve. You don't want a situation where you have to wait on other people's approval when you're trying to get those early wins. So look for the things that are extraordinary, they're outside the process, that are extra, and start there. The biggest trap in behavioral science is competition. You may already have data scientists who are doing a portion of the behavioral science process. They're already generating some form of insights, or they think they are, right? User research is already doing some form of this thing, or thinks they are. It doesn't matter if they're actually doing. What matters is that they think they are, and they will see you as impinging on their territory. There is no need to do that. Draft them into the process. Behavioral science is the glue that takes all of those things together. Find the things they're doing right, reward and scaffold those, and bring those closer to other parts of the organization. If you're already using COM-B, you can swap that in for competing pressures. It doesn't actually matter, right? If you already are using a different process, great, build on top of that. Take what you have and move forward. We don't generally have to burn everything down. Most of what we're doing is just reorganizing. Find the little pockets. One of the reasons I like giving lunchtime talks and other kinds of things is because it's a little bit of a screening filter. Lots of people come to the top, and at the end, there are a few people left over who always want to talk to you. Hey, those are your initial trial members. Those are the people who are going to help you push this forward because they're excited. They're intrinsically excited. Maybe they're reading Thinking Fast and Slow on their own. Maybe they're starting to apply this in their own life. Maybe they took this course and you don't even know it. Being public and visible is a magnet that allows you to attract other talent that's already thinking in this direction. So make sure that you're doing your work in public and in an open way that allows anyone to join. The moment you start being competitive, the moment you start closing off, the moment you start saying, well, this is mine and I don't want anybody else to take it, is the moment you lose the battle. It doesn't even matter if it's called applied behavioral science. I don't care. If it's behavior as an outcome and science as a process, if they're doing the thing that is behavioral science, it doesn't matter what it's called. Now, there is an organizational transformation that's going to have to happen in order to move closer to using behavioral science across the org. But one of the really great things about behavioral science is it doesn't just teach us how to change behaviors outside of our organizations. It actually gives the same pressures and the same process that we use to change behavior inside of our organization. So if you want people to do behavioral science, first of all, you have to know what behavioral science means. Sure sounds like strategy there. Insights, you have to understand why they're doing that or not doing that today. How close are they? Even if they're not calling it a behavioral statement, how are they articulating things? What are the promoting and inhibiting pressures to that? then you're going to design something. You have to intervene in some way if you want to change people's behavior. If you want to get people doing behavioral science, you got to strengthen those promoting pressures, weaken those inhibiting pressures, right? When you give a talk and show off all these wonderful examples about behavioral science, when you are enthusiastic, that's wrapping up the promoting pressures. When you put in place processes, forms, documents, other things that make it easier for people to do what they want, hey, that's reducing those inhibiting pressures. So you're using that same methodology to actually change behavior in your organization. And finally, got to evaluate. Start small. Don't give a talk to the whole company. Give a talk to a small team. Give a talk to people on your team, then another team, then a lunchtime talk, then a talk at the all hands. Scale up, scale up, scale up, scale up, scale up as you get better and better and better at what you do, right? And as you have better and better outcomes, and you can adjust on the fly, and you can start to do this next thing. So we can use the same SIDE process to go ahead and change our own organizations.